Hi, I'm Colin Hung with Swaay.Health, where we love sharing the latest insights, news, and interesting stories from the brightest minds in healthcare marketing. On today's episode, we're going to dive deep into healthcare search, how it's changing, and what some of the trends are. Joining me on the program today is Jeff Steblea, Senior Director of Business Development.
Well done.
At Eruptr.
Correct.
Jeff, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Colin. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. It's nice to be here in Boston at the NESHCO conference. My first time here, and I really enjoyed the presentation that you made on day one. And in fact, that's what I want to dive into. Talk to me a little bit about healthcare search by first defining that for us.
Okay, well, from my perspective, I'm talking about paid search specifically. So not organic search, but rather search that organizations are paying for, right? So in terms of capturing healthcare consumers who are actively searching for care and making sure you're showing up for them, or you're paying for that Google ad and clicking through, right? So everything sort of from a patient acquisition perspective. So what's really interesting about paid search in healthcare, since 2019, obviously the world has changed, everything has changed,
right?
And search care, healthcare search is no stranger,
right?
No different. What we've seen basically is that healthcare search queries since 2019, year over year, have increased exponentially, as much as 30% from one year to the next. So what you have is a larger pool of people who are searching and that you're trying to capture, right?
Okay.
So what that means for healthcare organizations basically is that you might have been used to spending a certain amount to get a certain size of piece of the pie,
right?
For example, right? So if you're running an orthopedics campaign or something, and you're like, we typically run that for X amount, and for X amount we get this number of impressions,
right?
Well, what happens when the healthcare search queries increase is now you're eligible for so many more impressions. So what I always tell people is the pie itself has gotten bigger, right? So if you're still doing things the old way, you're just getting a smaller piece of this bigger pie, right? You're eligible for so much more. And there are some other factors that play into that as well. One is that, healthcare organizations are spending more on search than they've ever spent before. And with good reason. Everyone is in revenue recovery, right? And this is like what the quickest, easiest way to show ROI, right? Because you can demonstrate results very easily. It's very cost effective. Mm-hmm. It's an easy way to get patients if it's done correctly. And you're able to tie it right back to the dollar and say, this is the amount of money we spent. This is the amount of new patients that we brought into our system. And of course, everybody loves that right now. So we're seeing marketing budgets, even if the marketing budget itself as a whole remains flat, the piece that's going toward paid digital is increasing. So upwards, again, 70% of a marketing budget might be all just paid digital now, because it is just so cost effective and it demonstrates results. And then the third thing that's fascinating is, Google itself loves to change.
Of course.
so just as marketers get used to using Google, and especially healthcare marketers, because of course we operate under greater restrictions and guidelines and everything with data privacy and all of this, as we've seen, just as they get used to it, Google changes something, and then you have to sort of like rethink your strategy and how you go about things. One of the more recent changes of the last few years from a Google perspective is this sort of insistence on people using broad match keywords. And so what that does is, like from my strategy perspective, most of our campaigns are focused on patient acquisition.
Okay.
So we wouldn't typically use a lot of broad match keywords because they're so broad.
Sure.
You're getting people who are just information seekers. They just want to learn more about a disease state, or they're not necessarily in the market for an appointment or to see somebody yet. So we always typically focus on the more like lower funnel, very strategic, very targeted keywords that are more likely to result in a conversion. But what this Google change means is that now you can still do that, but now you have to also pepper in all these broad match keywords. If you don't, your ad's simply not going to show up as much as your competitors. So then it becomes about a lot of trial and error, right? Well, what are broad match keywords that still end up converting? Every market's different, every service line is different. So you kind of have to play with that in real time, and you do constant testing to see which broad match keywords work. But it's the same essential problem. You're now open to so many more eligible impressions because more people are searching and
the broad keywords.
So, at the end of the day, Google's a business and they found a way for us to spend more money. But it's up to us to figure out how to spend that money well. It's, more money isn't always the answer. In healthcare, it can't always be the answer. So it's how do we take this budget and make it do more for us by having all of those things going on,
Now, you presented with one of your clients, Nuvance.
Nuvance.
And talk to me a little bit about some of the results that came about from some of the work that you collaborated on.
Yeah, Nuvance is a great case study because, first of all, they're very forward thinking. So they always want to be on the cutting edge of new technology and new partnerships. And if we're beta testing something, they're like, we want in. They definitely want to have that, to be thinking ahead. And that's really wonderful. And it's not often the case in healthcare.
For sure.
There's definitely a lot of people who push back on that sort of thing. But they understand, the need to have a business case for things. And like at the end of the day, we have to use the budget wisely. We have to generate revenue for the system. So they're very interested in trying things. So what was great about that was, we had the ear of leadership. And we worked really well with their team to align on what our goals and objectives were, what our success metrics were going to be, and basically give that presentation and say, what do we want to achieve? How are we going to get there? What are the statistics we're going to be looking at and the measurements we're going to be looking at to know how well we're doing? All agree on that and then move forward. That's key. And then the second thing is just really being open to different kinds of things. So for partnerships, we really believe in working well with the other partners that work with the systems we work with. I consider us all partners,
sure,
all a team, right? And they were very interested in having us integrate with their appointment scheduling platform, which was Kairos. And we had been talking to the Kairos team anyway, because we were very interested in partnering. So this turned out to be like the perfect client to kind of roll this out with, of like, all right, this is our white paper, like, let's do this.
Right.
We'll figure it out, and they were game. They were really game and in fact, super, super enthusiastic about it. So again, we had all the buy-in to do this, to integrate with Kairos, and not just for primary care, but for mammography, which I think you don't see that typically, people able to self-schedule.
A mammography,
yeah. So that was wonderful. And of course, what that means for us is then now those conversions are even that much more real, because it's not just about the number of leads we drove in or the number of phone calls, qualified calls that we drove in, or form fills that we drove in, all of which, is good.
It's good.
Those are good marketing metrics. But actual appointment scheduled, that's better. And of course leadership loves that. So being able to say, and the graph, I think that Stephanie put in front, Stephanie Petrazzi, who's great director of digital marketing there, and I know you've spoken with her before. She put out a graph in front of people at our presentation that showed sort of before the Kairos integration and after, and it's like,
it's very stark.
It's very stark, as like it tells a whole story right there. So yeah, so that's what was. Those were a couple of reasons that partnership's super exciting.
So if I was a person listening to this program, kind of I won't say fumbling, but maybe struggling to get more dollars or more buy-in to my paid search, what would you recommend that someone like me should do?
Yeah, if you're struggling to get buy-in from leadership.
To increase it, or to recognizing that there's more people searching, and I want to up my budgets, but maybe not getting as much buy-in. What would you suggest I do?
Yeah, I would say, and this is kind of what I always say, and I've been consulting in healthcare for over 20 years, and I as you know, I started as a marketing researcher, right? Market researcher. Data is king, right? And so if you have data to support, your assertion, they will listen. It's no longer an opinion. Right?
It's evidence-based.
It's evidence-based. So I'm always a big fan of saying, leadership respects data, physicians respect data. If you can show, what you hope to achieve based on data. You know, this is what's happening in the industry. This is what I think we should do. This is the kind of return we can expect, right? This is how expensive it is to compete for, say, this service line in this type of market. And here's the plan. That makes it easier for people to say yes.
Okay.
Right? Because there's a whole plan and it's evidence-based, to your point.
I like it. Nothing screams louder than data when you get into a meeting with clinicians or leadership who are looking for, okay, why am I going to spend $12,000 instead of $6,000 on paid search? And then you're able to show, well, when we do that, and here's some case studies and here's some other data that shows, we will get appointments out of this.
Yeah, and you know, I think, well, people get scared of the word data too, so I should back that up a little bit and say, tell the story of the data. You know, don't just put a bunch of data in front of people. Yes, they respect the data, but like, know what story you want to tell, you know, and back that up with data. But I feel like, you know, people respond to stories. Here's the story of what we want to achieve. Here's the story of your system and where we could be in a year if we do this. And I would also say, be patient.
Good one. Good one. It does take a while to convince minds and change hearts in healthcare.
And to see results, frankly, too. You know, I mean, I think, you know, for something like paid search, again, with Google, I mean, it takes 90 days for Google to really fully understand a new campaign. So if you're going to pilot something and try something, you have to give it the time to really know. Right. So yeah, I think most people know this at this point, but every once in a while you get somebody who's like, we've been in market 2 weeks, how are we doing? And I'm like, yeah, you're getting there. Yeah. But be patient.
Yeah.
You know?
Got a few more months to go. Got a few more months to go. Well, Jeff, you shared a lot of great information. Where can people go to find more information from Eruptr?
Yes, they can go to Eruptr.com and go to our website, and we've got a nice little video right at the top that can kind of point them in a lot of directions. They're also welcome to just email me. It's simply jeff@eruptr.com. I'm always happy to talk to people.
And that's Eruptr, ERUPTR.com.
Correct.
Awesome. Jeff, well, thank you for being on our program today.
Thank you, Colin. Appreciate it.
Hey, if you enjoyed this content and this interview as much as I did, we'd love for you to check out more at Swaay.Health. That's Swaay with 2 A's, .health. And there you'll find a lot of other great interviews and content. I'm Colin Hung for Swaay.Health, and we'll catch you on the next video.